Hi, my name is James Shepard, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to choose the right credit card processor when you're selling merchant services. Now, this is an extremely important decision, and I've really been interested as I've talked to probably 300 or so merchant services salespeople just in the last month or so. I do every year have a big thing where I talk to a bunch of different people in the industry, and I've really been interested to learn how little people seem to understand about this decision. This is an extremely important decision, which processor that you choose. Now, I have the benefit of being in the industry for a long time. I've consulted for a lot of different processors. I've sold for different processors. And so I've learned a few things along the way. So I wanted to make this mini series. We're gonna have 5 or 6 videos here talking about getting into the industry, choosing the right processor, getting the right compensation, kind of just all these main building blocks that you need to have in place. And I think this is a really, really important topic. So there's 4 things that you need to understand in order to choose the right processor, okay? The first thing that you need to understand is you need to understand yourself. Now, what I mean by that is, are you the type of person that can sell merchant services? Do you have a problem talking to business owners face to face? Do you have a problem walking into businesses or calling them cold turkey on the phone? Do you not enjoy running numbers? This is a financial services business. So if you're like, oh, I hate math, I hate doing numbers, and I hate, talking about things like that, detailed numbers stuff, now I'm not a detail person, but I do like math. I like business in general. I'm a logical person, and that helps me in this industry because it's financial services. And so there is a little bit of that involved in it, right? Do you like, the idea of looking at an Excel spreadsheet, does that scare you to death? Well, then, you either need to take some online courses or something because this is not going to be a good match for you. So number 1, you need to understand yourself. Number 2, you need to understand the industry, okay? You've got to understand the industry at least a little bit. When I talk to some people and they're like, yeah, I picked this processor, and I'm like, oh, cool, what's their Schedule A cost for their per transaction fee? And they're like, what do you mean? What's the per transaction cost, or what's the Schedule A? Well, there's really no way for you to make a good decision about choosing a processor if you don't even know what a Schedule A is, if you don't know what a transaction fee is, if you don't know what a per item cost. Now, you don't have to, have the interchange table memorized. You don't have to know everything about the industry, but you do need to have a couple basic building blocks in place and understand the industry. Now, that's an area where if you feel like you're a little weak on that, let me encourage you to go to instantquotetool.com, and go ahead and go there, sign up for a free trial. You can watch all my video courses there. Start with, understanding merchant services, how to sell merchant services. I have a really, really good one in there. I think it's really short too. It's only maybe an hour or 2, and it's about how to read a processing statement. That's a really good one to help you understand the industry. It goes through a lot of things. I even talk about compensation in there a little bit and how that works. So you need to have a basic understanding of how residuals work and just kind of a core stuff. So understand yourself. You need to understand the industry. Those are the first 2. The third thing you need to understand is you have to understand the compensation. Now, this does go a little bit to what we talked about a minute ago, but you have to understand the compensation. How does it really work? The best way that I've found for a person to really, truly understand the compensation structure of a processor is to ask them to walk you through how they would sell a merchant that does 5,000 in volume, 10,000 in volume, and 50,000 in volume, okay? So 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 in volume, those seem to kind of be the breaking points on most of the compensation plans. If you think you're gonna be selling really small merchants like phone swipers, you could also ask about a merchant that sells 2,000 in volume. But what I mean by that is, have them walk you through that and say, okay, let's say that I called you right now, you're talking to a processor, and you're like, let's say I called you right now and said, I've got a business, they're processing 5,000 in volume. What kind of pricing would you recommend? How much money would I make up front? What kind of terminal would I provide? Does the terminal cost money? What would happen in that case, okay? Now once you have that, would there be anything different about what you just told me if they were doing over 10,000 in volume? And they're like, yeah, this would be different, that'd be different. Okay, what about if they're doing 50,000 in volume? And then maybe you could also say, what if they were doing less than 5,000? What if they're doing 2,000 or 3,000 in volume? So if you ask them, if you understand the basics of the industry, take 15, 20 minutes to get them to explain those kind of 4 options. What happens if I sell somebody that's under 5, 5 to 10, over 10, 50? What's the comp like? How much do I make? How would you price them? What kind of, equipment would I provide, whatever. Get the full thing, like you're going to make that sale. That's a really, really good set of questions to ask if you're trying to really understand a compensation program with a particular processor. And so that kind of leads us into the last one, the fourth thing you need to understand, which is you need to understand their value proposition, okay? Now I'm going to talk to you more about this in a upcoming episode where I'm going to talk about how to make money in merchant services, but I just briefly want to open this up and let you know every processor does have a slightly different value proposition. There are some I agree with, some I disagree with, but I would encourage you to keep an open mind about this stuff. You just need to understand it. You don't need to immediately judge whether or not their value proposition is evil or whether it's good or whether it's, whatever. Just how does it work? What's the pitch? When you go to a merchant, you say what exactly? I looked at a company yesterday that has a really slick gateway. It's a really nice billing system, some data analytics in there. And I could tell just from looking at that, I was talking to a sales rep, he was asking me my opinion on this particular company. And I was like, oh, that's cool. They have a technology, value proposition. So I was asking them some questions of like, how much does it cost? Is there like an extra monthly fee for this technology and analytics? Is it included? Like, you need to understand the basic value proposition. Some companies, it's all about we price really, really low, where you have really transparent pricing, free terminal, month-to-month agreement. It's kind of the idea of, that. Well, if that's the pitch, if that's the value proposition, there's also another side to this value proposition. And this is where I think a lot of sales reps get like all screwed up. You have to understand that the processors are all making money on the accounts, okay? They've all found ways to make money on the accounts. And again, I'll talk, kind of stealing my own thunder for a later episode, but they've all found ways to make money, all right? There's no company out there that's like, yes, we're going to pay you a bonus and we're going to pay you money monthly, and we just don't want to make any money because we just love merchants so much that we just don't want to make anything. Like, that does not exist. And I feel like some salespeople are like, no, you don't understand, James. I found the company. You wouldn't believe. I mean, they just literally don't make anything. Well, okay, either you're right and they're going to go out of business in a month, or you're wrong, which means you have no idea what you're selling, okay? So let me explain that, all right? Do you understand there's something called price increases? Okay? If the money doesn't make sense up front, you can just raise the price, okay? So there's price increases that can be done. There's little extra fees that can be added in, and I'm not saying that stuff is bad, right? I'm not judging those models. I'm saying everybody has a model to make money. You need to understand what is the value proposition for the merchant, what is the value proposition for the processor, and what is the value proposition for you as the sales rep, right? What do you make? How do you make that? Why do they pay that much? They pay us huge upfront bonus. Okay, why? Is that because they only pay 5% residual or 10% or, oh man, they pay me 90% split. Yeah, okay, what's your Schedule A cost? Right? Do they pay an upfront bonus? Do they charge you for equipment, right? That's not bad. If you want a 90% split, there you go. You found your processor, right? If you want a 15% split and a huge upfront bonus, you found your processor. So the question isn't, is this processor evil, wicked, or good? No, the question is, how do they make money? How is this good for the merchant? And how does it affect you? Once you understand all three of those things, you really understand the value proposition, and now you can make a good decision. Now, having said all that, if you listen to that and you're like, wow, James, you clearly know a lot more about this than I do. I probably do. You know why? Because I've been doing this for a really long time and I know like everybody in the industry. So all the processing companies I've talked to and worked with and things like that. So if you'd like my help, one of the things I started doing recently, now that I'm really focused more on the training and technology, is I still want to be able to talk to individual reps and ISOs. So one thing I'm glad to do is network with you a little bit. If you go to ccsalespro.com and click on Find a Processor, I think it's called Find Processors, click on that. There's a form there. Just fill it out. My assistant Angela will reach out, schedule a call for you. You and I can talk for 10 or 15 minutes. I will evaluate the company you're with, ask you some questions about it. We'll figure out if I think it's a good deal. If I think it's a good deal, I'll say that's a good deal. If it's not, I might say, hey, here's another company you might want to consider. I can make an introduction for you. So just a service I like to provide is let me help you find the right processor. It's something I can do because I know everybody in the industry and I've got a pretty good idea of the different programs. And I can tell you after talking to like 300 salespeople, the vast majority of them, there were some big things they did not realize about their compensation or about the processor they were with. Not always a bad thing, just something you got to understand, right, in order to move forward. And so we'll talk more about that. So stay tuned. We've got episodes coming out every day. These are going to be really, really powerful for you if you're in the merchant services industry to make sure you're choosing the right credit card processor. My name is James Shepard. Thanks for watching and listening.